Welcome to the spiritual awakening path. If you're on a journey of awakening, you've probably noticed that life starts to feel different. Things that once mattered so much slowly lose their grip, and you begin to let go of what no longer serves your soul. In today's video, we're going to dive into 8 things you'll gradually release as you awaken spiritually. Some of these may surprise you, some may feel a little uncomfortable, but every single one of them is leading you toward greater freedom, inner peace, and alignment with your true self. So if you've been feeling shifts in your relationships, habits, or even your own identity, you're not alone. This video is for you. Have you ever sat down, looked around your home, and asked yourself, do all of these things really make me happy? I remember a woman who once came to see me after I gave a talk about spiritual awakening. She had worked for over 30 years, built a solid career, owned a big house, drove a luxury car, and had a closet full of designer clothes. But when she retired, she told me, I have everything, yet inside I feel empty. I don't even know where true joy is anymore. And you know what? Her story isn't rare. At 40, 50, or 70, many of us begin to realize that the things we've spent our lives chasing don't bring lasting fulfillment. Society, media, and even the lessons we were taught as kids drilled into us that success is measured by what we own, that a bigger house, a newer car, or a fatter bank account would somehow make us feel whole. But here's the truth. The joy that comes from material things fades quickly. A new purchase may excite us for a few days, maybe a few weeks, and then we feel empty again, searching for the next thing to fill that void. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt truly happy? Was it when you bought something new, or was it when you shared a warm meal with your family? Was it when you watched the sunset melt behind the mountains, or when you held the latest phone in your hands? Even science proves this. Positive psychology researchers show that long-term happiness doesn't come from piling up possessions, but from relationships, experiences, and a sense of meaning in life. As we grow older, what we remember are the moments we lived, not the numbers in our bank account. And I'll be honest, this lesson comes from my own experience too. I once fell into that same trap of materialism. I thought a bigger house would make me feel secure, or that an expensive car would make me worth more in the eyes of others. But eventually I realized, peace cannot be bought. True peace only comes when we let go, when we learn to cherish the simple things. Now, giving up attachment to material things doesn't mean you have to live poor or throw everything away. Not at all. It simply means you no longer let those things define your worth. You can still enjoy the home you love, still drive the car you feel comfortable in, but your spirit is no longer chained to them. There is a profound freedom when you step out of the game of comparison, when you no longer feel the need to prove to the world that you are good enough through what you own. That's when you discover a different kind of wealth. Wealth in love, in connection, in quiet moments of peace with yourself. So let me leave you with this question. If tomorrow you lost everything you own, what would be left? And more importantly, would what remains be enough for you to feel that you lived a meaningful life? Have you ever wondered, why are we so afraid of death? Maybe it's because, from a young age, society teaches us that death is the end, that it's something terrifying, something we shouldn't talk about, something to avoid at all costs. But I want you to pause for a moment and consider this. What if death isn't the end at all? What if it's just a doorway, a transition into another space? I remember a man in his 60s once shared with me after a workshop. He said, I've spent my whole life living in fear of sickness, fear of aging, fear of death getting closer. But when I started learning about spirituality, I realized death is just a journey back home. And strangely enough, from that day forward, I started loving life even more. It might sound like a paradox, but it's true. Only when we stop fearing death do we truly learn how to live. Think of life as a journey. When you know the trip will eventually come to an end, you start cherishing every moment, every meal, every conversation, every hug. Impermanence is what makes life precious. Modern science even has fascinating insights about this. Studies on near-death experiences show that many people who came close to dying describe the same thing. A deep sense of peace, a gentle light, and an overwhelming feeling of unconditional love. These experiences suggest that death isn't a disappearance, it's a return. Over the years, I've spent time with people nearing the end of their lives, and I've noticed something profound. Once they accept death, they live more beautifully than ever before. They forgive more easily. They say, "I love you" more often. They savor every sunrise, every breeze, every breath. Do you see? Our fear of death often makes us live half-heartedly. It keeps us delaying, holding back, refusing to chase what we really want. But when you let go of that fear, you discover a new kind of freedom. The freedom to love deeply, to live fully, to create boldly, and to experience life without chains. So here's the question I want to leave you with today. If you knew death was just a doorway, a return, how would you live differently, starting now? Maybe you'd worry less, maybe you'd laugh more, or maybe you'd finally love the people around you with your whole heart. Have you ever felt like you're living a life that doesn't really belong to you? Maybe you've smiled when you didn't want to, said yes when deep down you wanted to say no, or stayed silent just to avoid disappointing others. We grow up in a society that praises harmony, being easygoing, and following the rules. But what's the cost of that? Sometimes it's losing touch with the most authentic part of ourselves. I remember meeting a woman in her early 50s years ago. She had raised her children, devoted her entire life to pleasing others, and then one day she told me, "I always thought that if I sacrificed myself, everyone else would be happy, but now I feel exhausted, and worse, I don't even know who I am anymore." That confession hit me deeply. And maybe, just maybe, you've felt something similar at some point too. When you step into a spiritual awakening, one of the biggest turning points is this. You realize you can no longer compromise with your true self. You start peeling away the masks you've worn for years just to fit in. At first, that can be terrifying, because it means facing the raw truth of who you are. But imagine this, standing in front of a mirror, and for the very first time seeing your real face. No makeup, no role to play, no disguise. Just you, vulnerable yet strong, honest yet free. And in that moment you feel a weight lifted, a flood of freedom rushing in. That's the moment you begin to live in alignment with your true essence. And here's the magic. The people who are truly meant for you will naturally be drawn into your life. Because when you are authentically yourself, you radiate a completely different frequency, the frequency of honesty, freedom, and truth. Psychology speaks about this too. Carl Jung, the famous psychoanalyst, called it the persona, the social mask we wear to be accepted. But if we live only through that mask, we drift further and further away from our soul. And that disconnection is often the hidden cause of our anxiety, exhaustion, and inner emptiness. I know, living authentically isn't always easy. You might be judged, misunderstood, or even distanced from people you care about. But I can tell you, from my own journey and from many I've walked alongside, the price of authenticity is always worth paying. Because when you stop betraying your true self, you finally live a life where every morning you wake up without pretending. You're free. You're real. You're you. And that, my friend, is the greatest gift that awakening can ever give you. Have you ever noticed? We humans have a strange habit. We want to control everything. We want to make sure tomorrow goes exactly as we planned. We want people to behave the way we expect them to. We want life to feel safe and stable, no surprises, no risks. But here's the truth. Life has never really been in our control. I remember years ago, a close friend of mine spent his entire life trying to prepare for everything. He had a financial plan, a career plan, even a retirement plan. Then out of nowhere, a sudden health crisis turned all those carefully crafted plans into nothing. That moment made me realize something powerful. Control is just an illusion our minds cling to so we can feel safe. When you step onto the path of spiritual awakening, you begin to see it clearly. Life has its own flow. And instead of constantly swimming against the current, you learn to surrender, to trust, to let the current carry you. I want you to imagine this. Picture yourself swimming in a river. If you fight against the current, you'll exhaust yourself, struggle, maybe even drown. But if you relax, trust your breath, and let the water hold you, suddenly the journey feels lighter, safer, and sometimes even fun. Life works the same way. When you set a clear intention, take action from a place of truth, and then release your grip on the outcome, something amazing happens. You find a strange, beautiful sense of peace. You're not paralyzed by the fear of failure, and you're not blinded by the high of success. You know that whatever comes, comes for a reason, and whatever leaves, also leaves for a reason. Even neuroscience backs this up. Studies show that when we let go of the need to control, the brain reduces stress hormones like cortisol. Your body relaxes, your immune system strengthens. In other words, letting go isn't just some fluffy spiritual idea. It's real medicine for your mind and body. And here's the important part. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or doing nothing. Letting go means this. You still plant seeds, you still water the garden, but you don't force the flower to bloom on your timeline. You trust the natural wisdom of life. So let me ask you, have you ever tried so hard to hold on to something, a job, a relationship, a dream, only to realize that when you finally released it, that's when true peace arrived? That's the beauty of letting go. It's the moment you stop straining to be the controller of life and start becoming its companion instead. And in that moment, you don't just survive life, you finally feel free. Do you remember the last time you felt truly happy, just because of a compliment someone gave you? And then, can you also remember the sinking feeling when your heart dropped, just because of someone's indifferent glance, a careless negative comment, or maybe even their silence? We've all been there. I've been there too. For years, I tied my sense of worth to what other people thought of me. I lived for the applause, for the praise, for the likes and comments. But when the lights went out, when the applause faded, I realized I had forgotten the most important voice of all, my own. Here's the truth. Your real value doesn't live in someone else's opinion of you. It lives inside of you. Picture this. You walk into a garden full of vibrant flowers. Some people will stop and say, "Wow, this flower is beautiful." Others might just walk right past without even noticing. But does that change the flower's beauty? No. The flower still blooms, still radiates its fragrance, still simply is. And we as human beings are no different. One of the turning points in any spiritual awakening is when you stop being chained to outside validation. You begin to see that likes, compliments, nods of approval, all of it is fleeting. What lasts is the love you have for yourself and the unshakable knowing, I am worthy simply because I exist. Have you noticed this? The more we chase validation, the emptier we feel. It's like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. But when you stop chasing, when you pause, listen, and learn to validate yourself, you discover a fresh spring inside of you, flowing endlessly, never running dry. Even modern psychology confirms this. When our self-worth depends on external feedback, the brain gets stuck in a cycle of comparison, competition, scarcity. But when we anchor our value from within, the nervous system relaxes. Serotonin, the happiness hormone, rises, and we naturally feel a deeper sense of peace. So let me ask you this. If tomorrow no one clapped for you, no one praised you, no one gave you recognition, would you still believe you are worthy of love? If your answer is yes, then you've already touched real freedom. Because the moment you stop searching for validation, you begin to shine in the purest way. You no longer compare yourself to others. You no longer bend under the weight of other people's expectations. You live like the flower, simply blooming, because that's your nature. And here's the paradox. When you live this way, external recognition often comes naturally. But this time, you no longer depend on it. That's true peace. Have you ever noticed that after spending time with someone, maybe in a conversation or just being around them, your energy suddenly feels heavy? Your chest tightens, your mind gets clouded, and it feels like the light inside you dims just a little. If you've ever felt this, you may have brushed against one of the greatest truths of the spiritual journey. Not everyone in your life is meant to walk with you forever. I know, that's not easy to accept, because sometimes the people who drain your energy aren't strangers. They can be family, childhood friends, or coworkers you once trusted. But as you go deeper on your path, you begin to see clearly. Some relationships no longer nourish your soul. They actually hold you back. I remember years ago I had a close friend. We shared so many memories, and I thought our bond was unshakable. But over time, I noticed that every conversation left me feeling smaller. Complaints, negativity, gossip, even jealousy. At first, I told myself I just had to tough it out for the sake of friendship. But eventually, I realized that my spirit was being chipped away little by little. And that's when I learned, love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes, love means letting go. Think of your life like a garden. If there are plants with rotting roots, blocking the light, draining all the nutrients, can the rest of the garden truly bloom? No. For new flowers to grow, you have to be brave enough to cut away what no longer belongs. Letting go of toxic relationships isn't about hate. In fact, it's one of the deepest acts of love. Love for yourself, and sometimes even for the other person. Because when you step away, you give both yourself and them the space to face truth, to grow, and to find connections that are truly aligned. And here's the beautiful part. Letting go doesn't mean you'll end up alone. What it really means is you're creating space, an open door, for higher, truer, soul-nourishing relationships to enter. I've heard from so many people who shared that after they released a toxic connection, yes, at first there was emptiness and grief, but soon after they began meeting new people, people who brought peace, inspiration, and walked alongside them on their spiritual path. That's how the universe works. It never leaves a void without purpose. If you're brave enough to release what no longer serves you, you create room for something better to come in. So let me ask you, is there a relationship in your life that deep down you know it's time to let go of? And if so, do you love yourself enough to choose freedom? Because sometimes the peace and liberation of your soul begins the very moment you dare to say, I choose to let go. Have you noticed how, in today's society, being busy has almost become a badge of honor? When someone asks, how have you been? The most common response is, oh, busy. And strangely, many people even take pride in saying it, like being busy somehow equals success, worth, or importance. But once you step onto the path of awakening, you begin to realize a deeper truth. Being busy is not the same as truly living. You can run around all day, meetings, emails, deadlines, notifications, yet at the end of the day, you might sit down and ask yourself, did any of this actually feed my soul? One of my students once shared her story with me. For years, she woke up at 5 a.m., worked 10 to 12 hours, and then spent her evenings juggling side projects. From the outside, she looked unstoppable, driven, successful, full of energy. But on the inside, she felt empty, like a hamster spinning endlessly on a wheel, running fast, going nowhere. It wasn't until she began her spiritual awakening that she realized her busy lifestyle had drowned out the most important thing of all, her own inner voice. That's the shift. Souls on the awakening journey slowly learn that the value of life is not measured by how many tasks we check off, but by the quality of our presence in each moment. A simple meal eaten with mindfulness and gratitude can be far more nourishing than a lavish dinner where your mind is still stuck in your inbox. A quiet evening watching the sunset can bring more peace than an entire to-do list that's been crossed off. So as you move deeper into awakening, you start to practice slowing down. You choose to turn off your phone for a while and have a real conversation with someone you love. You allow yourself to rest, without guilt. You learn to say no to plans and obligations that only serve to please others, but don't serve your soul. And here's the beautiful part. When you let go of meaningless busyness, you don't actually lose anything. You gain yourself back. You suddenly have more space to breathe, to create, to notice the beauty around you. You begin to attract new experiences, people, and opportunities that align with your higher energy, the ones that bring true fulfillment. Because here's the truth. The universe doesn't celebrate you for getting through 50 emails today, but it absolutely supports and uplifts you when you live in alignment with your heart and your soul. So let me ask you, what in your daily routine doesn't truly matter, but you keep doing just to feel busy? And if you can identify it, do you have the courage to set it down and instead devote that time to what actually nourishes your spirit? Sometimes, awakening doesn't come from doing more. It comes from daring to do less, so you can finally live more. There's one thing almost nobody tells you when you step onto the path of spiritual awakening, the loneliness. You start losing interest in small talk. Old habits don't excite you anymore, and slowly you feel this growing distance between yourself and the world around you. It can be confusing, even scary. I often get messages from people saying, I feel like no one understands me anymore. What if I'm alone forever? And I usually smile and respond, loneliness isn't the truth. It's just an illusion of the ego. Because here's the thing, at the level of the soul, you are never truly alone. You are always connected to the universe, to source energy, to millions of other souls vibrating on the frequency of love. It's only the mind, conditioned by society, that makes you believe, I'm all by myself. Awakening teaches you to walk through this illusion. At first, you may drift away from people you were once close to, friends, coworkers, even family. They may not understand why you've changed. And yes, that space can feel like loss, but in reality, it's not loss, it's cleansing. When you learn to be alone without fear, something beautiful happens. You discover inner strength. You realize you don't need the crowd to feel worthy. You realize that in stillness, you can hear your soul's voice, receive guidance from the universe, and feel a peace you've never known. And from that place of peace, something magical unfolds. You naturally attract kindred spirits. You don't have to chase. The universe arranges for them to find you. Maybe a new friend who shows up unexpectedly, a mentor, or even a community you never thought you'd be part of. One of my students once told me, the day I accepted sitting down to eat alone without feeling sad was the day I started meeting people who truly understood me. You see, loneliness only feels scary when you resist it, but once you embrace it, it becomes a doorway to freedom. You stop needing to prove yourself. You stop twisting and bending to fit in. You finally live authentically, and from that authenticity, you create a new energetic circle where kindred souls naturally gather. So let me ask you, what exactly is it that you fear about being alone? Is it the truth or just a story your mind is telling you? Remember this, you are never truly alone. You are always connected, always loved, always supported by the universe. And the moment you let go of the fear of loneliness, you'll discover the eternal strength that has been within your soul all along. My friend, the path of awakening is not always lined with roses. It asks you to let go of what once felt familiar, to face your deepest fears, and to have the courage to live true to your soul. But it is also on this very path that you will discover freedom, peace, and unconditional love, something no amount of money or worldly success can ever give you. If you're experiencing these signs, know this, you are not alone. The universe is guiding you, and millions of souls around the world are walking this journey with you. Every challenge, every shift you go through is awakening the eternal strength that has always been within you. So don't be afraid. Trust. Keep walking. And if you'd like more guidance, reminders, and support along the way, I invite you to hit that subscribe button right now. Every week, I share powerful spiritual insights to help you understand yourself more deeply and connect more fully with the universe. Drop a comment below and let me know. Which awakening sign are you experiencing the strongest right now? I read every single one, and your story might be the very inspiration another soul needs today. Always remember, you are not lost. You are never alone. You are the light this world has been waiting for. I'll see you in the next video.